back from Oogie Boogie.
Using the arts into your other subjects allows for students to be unique and to be creative and to be different.
I like art because, you can choose what you want to draw and everything. You can't really make a mistake. There's no right or wrong answers.
Knowing that they're learning and that they're having fun, that's what it's all about, really.
I like learning about Aboriginal culture because it's my language is Ojibwe.
We're going to be talking about Aboriginal artwork. And in Aboriginal artwork, you're going to see a lot of different shapes. These shapes tell stories, okay? They're not just there just to look pretty. And there are many different shapes that you're going to see. The first is called the ovoid shape. Can we say that? Ovoid shape. So I'm going to teach the students basically the forms and the shapes that you're going to see in native artwork, what they mean, what they're used for. Come down here. So students might need to see some modeling done by the teacher. They might draw these shapes, but they might not know what to do with them. So it's important that the teacher shows the students exactly how these shapes can be all work together in order to create an actual picture. So when they go and do their final product, they're able to put these shapes together to create not only a picture, but in the end, a story. So these are examples of artwork that students just a little bit older than you had made. And we're gonna see if you can figure out what they are and see if we can find the shapes in it. And I'm gonna allow the students the opportunity to practice drawing some of these shapes and perhaps make a rough picture out of them. See some of the shapes that you're drawing. Good. So one of the advantages to using these shapes is to create a picture that is of your own. There's no right or wrong way to draw it. And I tell the students, it's your artwork. There's no right way to draw it. There's no wrong way to draw it. Just use the shapes, and they can use the shapes however they feel fit. The importance of using an anchor chart is that students can reference them whenever they need to. If you find something in a book, you can't just open the book up and students can see it accessibly. You'll find that some of these resources just aren't available. And you can see that through this exercise that students will continue to look up at the shapes, they'll look up at the animals, and they'll even look up at the examples of the paintings just to see what they need and what kind of story they're going to tell through their picture. Okay, so remember we're using bright colors, okay? I chose to do the cross-curricular approach mainly because of the time factor. I think teachers and educators know that time is valuable and we don't have much of it, and because we have so much that we have to cover in such a short period of time, that I think it's necessary to incorporate other subjects into it. And if you incorporate art and drama and music, it allows for students who might be a bit shy or apprehensive to kind of find their niche, so to speak. And the more that you think in the terms of using the cross-curricular method, the easier it becomes. Once they're finished their final product, they can then discuss and share their paintings, talk about the shapes that they used, and the significance of the story that they told with the pictures that they drew.
Mine's about a thunderbird, and he's bringing 3 scrolls up to God.
This is important because it shows that they were able to interpret correctly what the teacher had told them. And then they're able to orally discuss and to portray their feelings and their thoughts. What I've started doing, and I found it's worked fantastic, was to involve the students in the evaluation process. So we have class rubrics that we develop as a class, and we have checklists that we develop as a class. And the students know exactly what's expected of them. Once the students have finished their artwork, I'd like to use a rubric to evaluate their artwork. This can involve the shapes that they used as part of the lesson as you're teaching, the creativity factor, the effort that they put in, the colors that they used, are they bright? And then, of course, when you're going around and listening to the students speak about what they drew, their knowledge of the culture, and the ability to actually express their painting. Okay, we are going to read a story. It's called Nanabojo, How the Turtle Got Its Shell. What kind of story do you think this might be? Caden?
A legend.
A legend. How do you know it's a legend?
Because it's how something came to be.
For the writing portion, students are going to take ideas from different Aboriginal legends and they're going to then write their own. So they're going to identify a topic, which is the legend, which is the problem, how something came to be, and they're going to write a legend.
Turtle.
So what's going to happen now is after we discussed what a legend has, the teacher can go and write some of these ideas down that the class generated, and then we can put it up as a visual so the students can see. And then we can also go over a class-generated rubric that we devised at the beginning of the year, discussing what makes a story a good story. And your setting is set in Antarctica. Excellent. Okay, so what's your first event that you have so far?
The animals were stuck in a blizzard and they were cold.
They were cold. For the language lesson, I would say it takes usually about 2 to 3 weeks. And depending on your age group, it might take a little bit less, it might take a little bit longer. For this particular class, good 3 weeks from beginning to end is probably a decent time frame. Okay, so now that we've discussed your first drafts as a class, we deconstructed them, we talked about them using the rubric and the checklist. You're going to take these ideas now, and now you're going to write your final draft, okay? And really keep in mind some of the suggestions that were given. What can happen too is if when the students are actually doing their final drafts, they can also type out their final drafts and make it a really nice published copy, so they can refine it even further on the computer. So once the students are finished, you as a teacher can conference with the student. You can take the rubric that we developed as a class, sit down with the student, and read it with the student and discuss each section. Okay, so one of the stories that one of the students wrote, I chose to write out onto some chart paper so that we can see it and we can make it into a play. Once the scripts have been typed out, the teacher can assign students roles, and then the class can sit and we can just have a read through.
All of the animals called this place where he kept the water Forbidden Falls. Now there was no water on the earth, and all the animals were extremely thirsty.
So when they do their read through, the teacher can offer suggestions, ways on how to capture the mood of the play, or different characters' roles, their voices, actions, all the things that come when you're performing a play. Kangaroo!
Me. How about his pouch?
When the students finally perform their final performance, of course you can use props. Props could be minimum. It doesn't have to be elaborate. Minimal costumes, and you can also get the students to make their own costumes or their own props, and if you want, you can incorporate that into a mark as well. So students can rehearse, and then you can have a final performance for other classrooms or parents.
Chipmunk ran for 2 days until he finally reached Forbidden Falls. But when he was running back to his friends, the water kept on falling out of his cheeks. When Chipmunk got back from Forbidden Falls, the animals noticed that all of the water had fallen out of his cheeks. The water Chipmunk dropped is today's puddles, ponds, and creeks. After Chipmunk's arrival, Lion decided that Pelican should go next. I enjoyed the writing of the script because it was my story. It was how water came back to the earth. I found it most fun because I got the narrator's role and I love reading.
Elephant, I found you. I'm so glad you're okay. I'm so glad to see you. Come on, let's go home.
And that is how water came back to the earth. And the moral of the story is... Together you can accomplish more than on your own.
Take a bow. Very good.